Welcome to Fruity Knitting. I'm Madeleine.
And I'm Andrea.
And this is episode 153. For new viewers, Fruity Knitting is a 90-minute program that brings you knitting inspiration from around the world, as well as some extra snippets of travel, history, and storytelling that we hope adds joy to your life and brings a smile to your face. Now, 2 weeks ago, we visited the Swiss Yarn Festival, and this was Mum's 4th and my 3rd time attending. It still remains one of our favourite yarn festivals. Events like this are really great for our channel because not only can we cover the festival, but the workshops bring together so many designers and fibre artists, and this makes it much easier to line up multiple interviews in the same place without having to travel to each person's home individually. So this year we managed to get 6 different interviews, and while we didn't have time to fully cover the festival as we've done in the past, we gave 2 presentations on the story behind Fruity Knitting. So that was a lot of fun, and then in return the Swiss Yarn Festival covered our accommodation. So it was also a really great arrangement for us.
Yes, it definitely was.
Yeah.
So our feature interview for this episode is with the Italian-based yarn company mYak. And it has actually been 7 years since we first interviewed mYak in 2018, and the company has really grown and evolved a lot since then. So mYak has a strong connection with Tibetan nomadic herders. They aim to support their traditional way of life by providing stable incomes so that the nomads don't have to move to the city and lose their ancient culture. So Paola is the face of mYak. She's the one you'll see on Instagram talking about all of the yarns and working closely with the designers. But behind the scenes is Andrea, who's a veterinarian. So he travels to Tibet around 4 times a year to work closely with the herders. And as you can imagine, Andrea has some incredible stories to tell from a vet's perspective. And this time our interview is just with him. So Andrea is very funny, and he's also typically Italian, so very expressive and passionate about his work, but also very charming, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. And I think we had a really engaging conversation. So of course we're going to give you updates on our own knitting with 2 finished projects in the Bring and Brag segment. That also means 2 little fashion shows. There's also a 3-minute tutorial on this version of the Afterthought Smocking. And we're going to show you snippets of the Swiss Yarn Festival fashion show. And then in under construction, I am starting a very exciting project, but an extremely daunting project.
Yes, it is exciting, but I think we should start with your top since you're wearing it.
Yeah, okay, so Bring and Brag. I have finally finished my Pura Vida top. So I have been designing this as I knit it, but in a very relaxed way because I didn't swatch beforehand, and I've mostly been relying on guesswork for stitch counts and proportions. It has turned out pretty close to how I imagined it would, though I'm not completely happy with it. But first of all, I'm going to tell you all the parts that I am very happy with and that I think worked out well. So the sleeves are very full, and I really love their shape. There's a lot of volume in the upper sleeve here, and I really like the gathers that are sitting on the top of the shoulders. I'm not sure if you can quite see that there. So I didn't use a set-in sleeve to shape the armholes on the sleeve and the body. Instead, I used a modified drop shoulder, but I actually cut it into the body a little bit more than normal. And I did that, so that means that the top of the shoulder of the sleeves here will have a little bit of extra volume at the front and the back, but also it means that the top of the sleeve will still sit on the top of my shoulder and not fall over the edge like it would on a normal modified drop shoulder, or even more so on a drop shoulder. So with a modified drop shoulder, the underarm has a square cut rather than a curve, and the top of the sleeve doesn't have a sleeve cap that in a bell shape, which is normal by a set-in sleeve. Instead, it just goes straight across, and then the sleeve will just slot into the 90-degree angle on the body. However, I did add a shallow sleeve cap to my sleeve because I wanted a little extra fabric at the top of the sleeve, and that's because the top of my sleeve would still sit on the top of my shoulder, and I needed that extra bit of fabric just to go around the curve at the top of the shoulder. But I'm also really happy with the sleeve length and the short cropped waist. You might remember that originally my V neckline was scarily deep. Well, I've actually added a little garter stitch neckband to it now, and it's quite a normal depth.
Yeah.
That's not what I intended. I actually intended it to have a very deep V neckline, so it's obvious that you have to wear something underneath it, maybe a little silk camisole or a little lace top. I wanted that deep V neckline, so it's obviously more evening wear.
More dramatic.
And actually, if you see where I originally started to shape it, it is even deeper than the underarm here. So the lesson of that is that if you want a very deep V neckline, you've got to make it extremely deep if you're going to stick a neckband on it, because the neckband actually really fills it in.
Yeah, it does.
But that it doesn't bother me so much. That's sort of incidental.
I think it's pretty.
I love the colour. It's like candy. It's bright and beautiful for spring and summer, so I'm very happy with that. And I'm also very happy with the Afterthought smocking that I've used around the waist and on the cuffs. It's a different variation of Afterthought smocking than what I used on my April cardigan here. Both are done on a 2x2 ribbing, but this version pulls in the gauge so much more. It'll probably take it down to at least 2/3 of its original width. And I've done a 3-minute tutorial, which is coming up very soon, so you can see how to do this version of it. And what else did I want to say? Okay, so I think they're all the parts that worked really well, and now I want to show you the parts that didn't work so well. So here's a photo of the back neck, and it doesn't go completely straight across. It does have a slight curve, but probably not enough. If you look at the shaping underneath the garter stitch neckband, it's about 1.5 centimetres lower than the shoulder seams. I thought that that would be sufficient, but I really think it probably should have been deeper. So as a result, the shoulder seam tends to fall back and not sit right on the top of my shoulder. That's not a problem too much, except for that it also pulls it up at the front, and that I really don't like. And I kind of thought if I had a bigger bust, maybe it would pull the fabric forward a bit more, and then the shoulder seams would slip back up to the top of my shoulder. But that's not a solution I'm willing to pay for.
Or maybe it'd just slide up even higher.
No, it would tend to pull it forward here, I think.
Okay.
But I think I'm not quite sure what exactly the problem is. I have to ask somebody who's got higher tailoring skills than I do. But I just want to go off on a tangent now, because that reminds me, as you know, Madeleine is getting married, and probably about 6 weeks ago, Madeleine and her bridesmaids and I went off to a bridal boutique to look for dresses.
Yeah.
And that was a hell of a lot of fun. It was a really girly fun afternoon.
Absolutely.
So Madeleine has found her dress. It's very beautiful, and the bridesmaids have their dresses and they're very happy. And I'm the mother of the bride, and I play an important role, so I also get a dress, and I'm really happy with my dress. But of course we all have to go back and get the dresses fitted perfectly for us, and I'm thinking that I will wear this top when I go back for my fitting.
Good
and
idea.
I'll ask her, the tailor/seamstress, what the problem is, and she might be able to tell me, because she's really used to fine fitting. If she says that I'm right and the back of the neck should be a deeper curve, I don't want to unpick it all. So what I might do is get my scissors and sewing machine out and do a bit of a zigzag on a deeper curve at the back of the neck. First of all, I'll unpick the neckband, do a deeper curve, and then zigzag it, and then cut it away, and then pick up stitches and redo the neckband. I know some of you are thinking, how's that going to work? The mohair's going to get caught in the sewing machine's teeth. I have thought of that. We've been dealing with embroidery on knits quite a bit in the last couple of months, and very recently we've had a live event with Judith Gumlich, who is the author of Embroidery on Knits, and she's brilliant. Highly recommend her book. And if you're a patron, check out the live event we had, because that was very fun. Anyway, what she does is she uses this stabilizer that you put over your knitting. And I thought I could put a bit of stabilizer underneath my knitting or over the top, then do the fine zigzagging, and then all you do is you put it in water and this stabilizer dissolves completely. So that is my idea, if that would be the solution. But anyway, overall, I still think the garment is a success, especially considering how loosely I approached it. And I really do not recommend this as a way to design your own work. But we have been really busy over the last few months and something had to give, and this time it was my knitting. So coming up now is this 3-minute tutorial on this form of afterthought smocking. It is actually really easy. It's very satisfying. I highly recommend it. And then it's followed by a little fashion show, and this time I'm doing the modelling. So I've nearly finished the afterthought smocking on this top. I've completed both sleeve cuffs and now I'm working on the waistband. So smocking is worked horizontally over 2 rows, and you can see that fairly clearly here. I've got 4 rows of smocking on the cuffs, and these bottom 2 are worked together, and then the top 2 are worked together. And also on the waistband, I've completed the bottom 2 rows of smocking. They're worked like this in a zigzag way, and I've nearly completed the top 2 rows of smocking. I've only got this little section here to finish. And I've used red sewing thread to mark the rows that'll be smocked and the stitches that are going to be sewn together. And for the hem, I've decided to work a smocking stitch on every 8th row. So if you have a look at these columns of knit stitches, they're worked in pairs. So if we say that this is the first column, and that's column 2, column 3, 4, 5, etc., you can see that I've marked the first stitch in column 1 and the second stitch in column 2. Those 2 are going to be brought together, close together, and sewn. And then the first stitch in column 3 and the second stitch in column 4, those 2 will be brought together. And then the pattern continues, the first stitch in column 5 with the second stitch in column 6. So that is marked in exactly the same pattern all across that row, and then you do the same thing in the row above but offset. So instead of marking the first stitch in column 1, I'm marking the first stitch in column 2, and that'll be sewn together with the second stitch in column 3. And the first stitch in column 4 will be sewn together with the second stitch of column 5. And then I will sew these together and then go up to this row, sew those 2 stitches together, come down to this row, sew those 2 together, go up and sew those together. So I'm working always in a zigzag way up and down across 2 rows. I'm using 2 threads here, a silver metallic thread and 1 strand of the Kid Silk Haze, and I've brought my yarn up to the left of this stitch here. I'm bringing it across and I'm just putting my needle under the 2 legs of the stitch that I want to sew together, not right back under here, just the 2 legs of the stitch, and then I put it through the 2 legs of this stitch and underneath the yarn like that, and I'm going to sew those together. I can ignore the red thread because that gets easily pulled out afterwards, and I'm just going to do that a couple of times. When I've gone around that a couple of times, I go down to the right side of the stitch and I put my needle up to the left side of the stitch in the row above, making sure that I'm not pulling it too tight underneath, otherwise it'll pucker in this direction and I'll lose length. And then I do the same thing here. I put my needle under the 2 legs of that stitch here and under this stitch as well, and then I'm sewing those together. I can now get rid of the red thread if I want to, just to make it a little bit easier. Go around a second time. And now I'm ready to come back down to the row below. So again, I put my needle to the right of that stitch and come down to the left of the stitch that I'm about to join here. I go across, put my needle under the 2 legs of that stitch, under the two legs of this stitch, and I always put this yarn around over the top of my needle. I think it just makes the stitch a little bit neater in the end.
And the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your ma is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry.
One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. Yes, you spread your wings and you take to the sky. But till that morning, there's nothing can harm you. Yes, with daddy and mommy standing by.
Welcome back. I've given Mum my knitting because her other project is too complicated to knit while listening to me talk. So we're still in Bring and Brag because I've finished my Fern sweater by Knitting for Olive. This was a super fun project and I highly recommend it. It knits up very quickly on 4mm needles and the pattern's super easy. It's very easy to memorize. It's simply 2 yarn overs every pattern repeat with decreases in between, and you do that every few rows. Very simple. Plus, originally I thought this was also a benefit. If you accidentally forget to do a yarn over in the row below, it's very easy to ladder down and pick up that little ladder in between 2 stitches to make a new yarn over, and that way you can avoid having to rip everything back. But in hindsight, I don't recommend doing this because I have a few yarn overs that look quite a bit tighter than the others, so don't be lazy, rip back your knitting if you've made a mistake. The only downside to this pattern is that the lace pattern underneath the arms can end up a little bit too loose. After dividing the yoke for the body and sleeves, I put the sleeve stitches on hold using spare needles. The problem was that that row happened to be a lace row with yarn overs, and the weight of my spare needles stretched out those yarn overs, leaving very big holes on the side of the underarms. So when I came back to pick up the armhole stitches to knit the sleeves, I did try to fix these or tighten these stretched out yarn overs by twisting the stitches and just improvising a little. And it did help, but it's not perfect. So looking back, I think I would simply skip the lace rows or the yarn over just for underneath the arms before putting the stitches on hold and continuing to knit the body. And this would have simply made things look a bit neater. And honestly, since it's underneath the arms, no one's going to notice if you skip one row of the lace pattern. I'm not talking about up here on the shoulder, just here. And then when I started the sleeves, I actually did skip the first lace row under the armholes. As you can see, it's barely noticeable and looks much neater. But overall, this really is a great design. So moving on to the cuffs and the hem, I used the grafted cast off, which is my favourite way to bind off because it's stretchy and has a nice clean finish. And for the turtleneck, I decided to wear the turtleneck folded inwards because I think it gives the sweater a more elegant look than folding it outwards, which in my eyes is a bit more casual. Originally, I was going to sew this edge down to the baseline of my neck, but I haven't had time, so I'm just leaving it like this because actually I quite like the flexibility of being able to put this right up. I don't think it's aesthetically the most pleasing look, but it's very warm, so I like to stay flexible. And now we have matching Fern sweaters, yes, which is very fun.
I brought mine along to remind you.
In her gorgeous blue.
Yeah.
I prefer this colour actually, but I needed something neutral. And I think for a neutral colour, this is a good colour to go with.
I think yours really suits you, that colour.
Thank you.
And it's interesting because the silk in it
makes it gleam.
It takes the dye differently and it's a little bit more golden, so you get these tiny little flecks.
Yeah, it gives it a bit of bling bling. Anyway, I do love this top, so I took it with me to the Swiss Yarn Festival. And that brings me on to the next subject. 2 weeks ago, we visited the Swiss Yarn Festival, and I love this festival. It has a very intimate vibe, there's a lot of familiar faces, and it's also very multicultural. Lots of the vendors, like Deborah from Penny Lane Yarns, who we covered last year at the Swiss Yarn Festival, can speak multiple languages, so they keep switching between German, English, French, and Italian, depending on who they're speaking to.
It's pretty remarkable.
I think it's so fun to listen to. And while we didn't have time to fully cover the festival this year, we did film the festival's fashion show, which features some knitwear designs from larger brands as well as some independent knitwear designers. So a taste of that is coming up now, together with a short video of me modelling my Fern sweater on the festival's marketplace.
The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, they can't take that away from me. The way your smile just beams, the way you sing off key, the way you haunt my dreams. No, they can't take that away from me. We may never meet again on the bumpy road to love.
Tell me how you want me. I can
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the fashion shows. Mum over here is unpicking a row on my knitting because she made a mistake for once, not me. But thank you for helping me out with my project.
I'm not sure I am helping you out.
Yeah. Anyway, now Mum and I pour our hearts and energy into creating Fruity Knitting, and we rely entirely on you, our viewers, for financial support. We live in amazing times where there is so much valuable content available for free on YouTube, including Fruity Knitting. And I think this is really amazing because it means that knitters everywhere can access high quality educational content and learn from the amazing guests that we get to feature on the show. But while watching our videos is for free, producing the videos is not for free. We invest a huge amount of our time and we do carry significant regular expenses to keep the show running. And unfortunately, making money off YouTube advertisements is practically impossible for a smaller channel like ours because YouTube ads pay around $1 to $2 per 1,000 views, so it's not much. And actually, we don't make any money off YouTube advertisements because we use copyrighted music for the intros of our interviews and for other segments like our fashion shows because we think that really adds to the quality of the show.
Or the bark prelude right at the beginning, the
Yes.
Fruity Knitting theme.
Exactly. And so that is why we ask you to please become a Fruity Knitting patron. As a patron, your contributions directly support this channel and enable us to continue releasing new episodes every month. It's very easy and you can start at only $5 a month. If you like, you could pause the video and go to the description box below to click the link patreon.com/fruityknitting and sign up as a Hebridean, a Merino or a Shetland patron. We truly appreciate your support and thank you very much for watching our videos. So moving on, another month has gone by and I'm still working on the Varde Rundfeldt sweater by Rauma Designs, which I'm making for my fiancé Ryan. Just to recap, here's a picture of what my progress looked like at the end of January, right before we left for our knitting retreats in Costa Rica. So I chose a very bright and beautiful blue for the main colour of the body and paired that with a light beige, lime green and dark navy in the colourwork section. Unfortunately, I later regretted this colour combination and decided to replace the bright blue with the navy blue that you see in the colourwork. But because the sweater is knitted bottom up, I would have to rip back the entire yoke and start anew. And I really didn't want to do this, so my only other option was to cut and graft my fabric. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. When you graft together two pieces of stocking stitch fabric with a Kitchener stitch, you end up creating one additional row of stocking stitch. Now I'm grafting together two pieces of colourwork fabric, but I wanted to avoid having to use multiple strands of different coloured yarn. And that is possible to use multiple strands with grafting together colourwork, but it's a lot more effort, and I thought I could maybe avoid that. So luckily there is a single beige row with no colourwork or decreases right here. And this is the row I will recreate as I graft together the top and bottom pieces of my yoke. So I picked up the stitches from the row above, which includes beige and green stitches, and these would become the live stitches of my top piece of fabric. And then I would reknit the bottom piece of fabric until I reached this row below, which contains beige and blue stitches. So once I'd picked up all the stitches on my needles, I took my original yoke and cut open the row below my needles and unravelled all of this yarn. So this is what my yoke looks like with live stitches underneath. You can see the loose strands of colourwork here. That'll be interesting to deal with. And this is the bottom part that I'm still knitting.
You can see it's going to look so much better with this dark colour.
Yeah, it is going to. Ryan's very happy about the change of main colour.
Happy or relieved?
Or both. He's also grateful that I'm knitting him something in the first place.
That's very good.
Yes, he's a very good partner. So that's where I'm up to now. So my next step will be, once I've finished this, to graft both pieces together. I'm actually quite excited about this, and you will get to see that in a little tutorial in the next episode. Having to reknit this bottom section of the yoke also gave me the chance to add some extra short rows along the back before the colourwork starts.
Yeah, so going from about here on the sleeve around to there on the sleeve. Yeah.
Yep. Back in episode 151, I did a tutorial showing you how I added short rows to the neckline as it was far too wide along the sides and the back. In contrast, the front section of the neckline already sat quite high up. So here's the neckline after I added short rows. And so by adding some extra short rows, I'm hoping to, along the back of the yoke before the colourwork starts, I'm hoping to tilt the yoke forward slightly so that the neckline sits a little bit lower. I thought this was going to work out well, but Mum's just told me it's probably not going to make a massive difference.
It's not going to make a massive difference.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm still hoping. But just as a quick description of what I did, I started in the centre back and knitted all the way to about the centre of the arm. Then I turned my work around and I used German short rows for this, purled all the way back past the centre back to the centre of the other arm, turned my work again, knitted all the way back to further here, and then turned my work again and purled all the way back to mirror that on the other side. And then I continued knitting in the round as normal. So that comes to 4 short rows.
I think it's also good because it's going to add a little bit of length because you don't want him to sort of be too tight under the underarms and he'll be like this.
Yeah, that's true. So the next step after I've grafted them together is to get rid of this neckline here. I'm going to unravel that and replace it with the navy blue.
It's going to look great.
Yeah, I'm excited about this project, even though it's taking me so long.
This is extremely fine cobweb weight yarn in 100% cashmere. Can you guess what I'm going to make with it? Yes. Okay, so as I've mentioned, Madeleine already has her wedding dress. It's not going to be a wedding dress, thank God.
It's a lot of knitting.
Her wedding dress is not actually white. It's a completely different colour, but she's told me I'm not allowed to tell you what colour it is. What I can say, though, it is an extremely elegant but very simple dress. Mm-hmm. It's the main feature of the dress would be that it's the material is just very, very beautiful, very simple, and the cut of the dress is gorgeous. It almost has a 1920s feel about it, but don't think sparkle. There's no sparkles.
Yeah.
It's just very, very simple. What I can also say is that when she's wearing it, she would definitely be able to audition for the Lord of the Rings as an elfin princess.
Oh, thank you.
She totally looks like that. So I am knitting her a wedding veil to go with it in this colour here, which is called a crew. So it's not a harsh white, and it's only just a slight cream, and she'll be holding cream champagne flecked roses. So together with this veil and the roses, it'll make the whole outfit look very bridal.
It's always fun to talk about these topics.
It is. It is a lot of fun. So her veil is going to be a very large semicircle shape, and it'll go from the top of her head probably down to her hips, but not over her face. Yeah. And after a lot of deliberation, we have actually picked out a design, and it's by Monique from A Passion for Lace. So Monique is a Dutch lace shawl designer who we actually interviewed in episode 28, so many years ago. So here's a picture of it. It's an exquisite wedding shawl with hearts all around the border. And the design is called The 12th of Never, which is after the song, which is all about eternal love, which of course fits perfectly for a wedding. And I have been on the phone getting some good advice from Monique, which I'm hugely grateful for. She gave me some great extra tips for knitting fine lace, but she also warned me that the middle section will actually take forever. And ironically, that's also why she called the design The 12th of Never, because when you're in the middle of it, you feel like it's never, ever, ever going to end. So this is what I've done so far. I'm going to stick it up against my jumper so you might have a better chance of seeing it. It's very fine. Do you know, this is the border that just runs along the base, so not the one that goes right up around the top of it. There's 80 pattern repeats in this, and I figured that I have to do at least 4 a day. That'll take me 20 days just to do the bottom border.
That's a third of a month.
I know, this is really scary. Like, I am going to need all of your magic making energy and wishes
Yeah.
to
And a lot of coffee.
make sure I keep finishing this, because I normally don't have a lot of time to knit anyway. It's really quite a scary thing. But anyway, it's very beautiful. If I succeed, it's going to be utterly stunning. So wish me all the best. Now, Madeleine and I are super happy to announce that we will be hosting another knitting retreat this coming October in the Austrian Alps. This time, the retreat's going to be slightly longer than the retreat that we had in Costa Rica. So instead of 5 days and 4 nights, it's going to be 6 days and 5 nights. But there's only one retreat, and that's from the 19th to the 24th of October. And we've chosen what we think is an absolutely stunning location. So we'll be staying in a little spa resort that's in a very tiny village that lies directly on the edge of a crystal blue lake surrounded by the Tyrolean mountains. The views are really amazing. Just a 10-minute walk away is a cable car that takes you to the top of the mountain for breathtaking views of the lake. And there are very scenic walking trails around the lake and also up the mountains. And the spa itself has multiple pools and saunas, including morning yoga and meditation sessions. And our guests will have plenty of relaxation and knitting time, as well as time to enjoy the surrounding nature. And actually, as you sit in the spa, you have beautiful, stunning views of the mountains surrounding you. And additionally, we've planned an afternoon trip to explore the beautiful old town of Innsbruck, which has a gorgeous medieval city centre. We'll have a guided tour of some of the historical sites, including the magnificent cenotaph, which is adorned with intricate lattice work and surrounded by 28 larger-than-life bronze statues. This is truly a unique and extremely impressive church. And we'll end the evening with a special Tyrolean cultural highlight, and that is men in lederhosen performing slap dances and hearing the mellow tones of the Alpine horn, lots of yodeling, all while tasting some really good Austrian beer, if you choose. During our Costa Rican retreats, we included non-knitting partners of the participants, and that worked out really, really well. So we want to encourage participants in the October retreat to also bring along non-knitting partners if you choose. It doesn't have to be your husband or your wife or your romantic partner. It could also be your son or your daughter or your best friend. We had all of those combinations during the Costa Rican retreats, and they all worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there are so many activities that your non-knitting partner can do. Just in the resort itself, they have full programs and yoga, meditation, different fitness programs that are just there to be involved in at your will. You can have bikes for free to go around the lake. There's so much that they can do. Golfing, tennis, endless things.
Paragliding.
All the time while we are sitting in our workshops learning new knitting techniques, which brings me on to say that we will also be joined by the knitwear designer Charlotte Stone, who is well known for her charming and joyful colourwork socks.
Yeah, so Charlotte will be offering 3 different workshops. One will be covering her best tips and tricks for colourwork sock knitting. In another workshop, Charlotte will teach you how to design your very own stranded colourwork motifs for your personal knitwear projects. This could be for socks, hats, or jumpers, whatever really. And of course, there will also be a special exclusive retreat design that we will work on together. And you can find a whole lot of information about this retreat on our website, artisanretreats.com. So there's lots of photos of the different activities we'll be doing, including the workshops and our day trip to Innsbruck, as well as the resort itself.
Yeah, and a big Q&A page to answer all your questions.
Yeah.
So we'll be opening up for registrations, first of all, just for our patrons, and that's going to be on April the 22nd. We always offer our patrons first choice in great appreciation for their loyal and faithful financial support over the years. And then on the 25th of April, it'll be opened up for registrations for everybody. So we are super excited about this. We really enjoyed hosting retreats in Costa Rica. That was our first experience, and we enjoyed it immensely. So we're very excited to do it again, and we hope to see a great mixture of old and new faces again with us. But coming up now is a really good interview with mYak, and I'm particularly happy about this interview because we get to talk to Andrea, who not many people will have known about, who's behind the scenes of mYak. And he has so many interesting stories to tell, and it makes a yarn so much more exciting to work with. If you fall in love with the yarn just for itself, that's brilliant. But if you know the care and the thought and the story and the history that's going on behind it, it makes your own experience of knitting, whatever you're knitting in it, so much more meaningful and pleasurable. So, and that's what you're going to see, this really immense caring story behind mYak. And mYak is actually offering Fruity Knitting patrons a 15% discount of all their yarns, which is a really great offer. And the details can be found as usual in the program notes on our website, fruityknitting.com, or on our Patreon site. I've just pulled this jumper out of my cupboard to show you, but you may not be able to see the lovely cable design in this. But this I knitted maybe 6 to 7 years ago. It's out of the mYak Baby Yak. It's really, really beautiful. I wear it a lot. There is not a single hint of a pill on it.
Yeah.
I am really always amazed at how good quality it is. They always pick the best cuts, and it's the cuts of they don't use the shortcuts, is what I'm trying to say, in their spinning. And it's just very, very beautiful. It's held up well. And Madeleine has knitted very recently, as you know, this one, which is the Baby Yak and Silk.
Yeah, Baby Yak Silk Blend. Actually, you ended up knitting a lot of it.
Yes, that's true.
But I wore this recently at the Swiss Yarn Festival and got lots of compliments on it. I really think this is very comfortable to wear, even as a summer top. And it just sort of glistens slightly. It's a very gorgeous yarn. Yeah.
So enjoy the interview.
Yes, and thank you very much for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you again in May. Bye.
Bye. Welcome to Fruity Knitting. I'm really thrilled to have Andrea from mYak join us again. 6 years have passed since our first interview with mYak back in 2018, and it's really wonderful to see how mYak has grown and evolved since then. So today we were going to have an interview with Paula and Andrea. Unfortunately, Paula is sick. She has suddenly come down to be very sick, and she's totally lost her voice. But Andrea is extremely knowledgeable, so we're going to have a brilliant interview with Andrea alone. But Paula and Andrea's journey began quite independently from each other with a deep connection to Tibetan nomadic herders, and they were working to support the traditional nomadic lifestyle through economic initiatives. And they met each other for the first time on the Tibetan plateau. And then later they formed mYak to promote sustainable practices and also to ensure that these communities have a consistent income. So today, Andrea is going to give us an update on their inspiring journey and the progress they've made over the last 6 years. So Andrea, it's actually been really great to get to know you a bit better in person over the last couple of days. So thank you for coming on Fruity Knitting again.
It is my great pleasure to be here with you again after 6 years. Thank you for inviting us again.
It's wonderful to have you on again. So just for the viewers who haven't seen our first interview, can you give us an introduction of how you and Paula met on the plateau and then started mYak in 2011?
Yeah, Paula and me, we met exactly 20 years ago, a few days more or less, directly on the Tibetan plateau in 2004. And basically, Paula was working for an American foundation. They had a cheese project, but this cheese was not so good. So they needed an Italian intervention from a vet, a cheesemaker. So she basically hired me and Massimo, that is the cheesemaker, to improve the quality of this cheese. So we met directly there. I exactly remember this moment. And this adventure started in this way. And it was an interesting project because there was the rural development part and also the educational part, because the profit of this cheese supported a traditional Tibetan school. So it was really an interesting and nice project that now is still working. So they are still producing cheese alone. So this is the aim of each development project. And with a very interesting, very good social impact. At that time, we didn't thought about the fiber, because it was we met there. I'm not an eater. I'm not in the field of the fiber. I'm a vet now. I know a lot of things about the fiber. So I know animals, but I didn't know too much about the fiber. But I usually remember this episode with Paula, because since everybody knew that there was a vet on the plateau, we had the line of people arriving with a sick sheep, sick goat, and there was in particular a baby yak. Paula was helping me to translate from English to Chinese to Tibetan. And this little yak has a dermatitis. So he asked Paula, please touch this very soft hair. And we was really impressed about this. And till now we have this souvenir. But at that moment, we didn't thought to develop something. But what happened? In 2008, with the Beijing Olympic Games, on the Tibetan plateau, there was started a lot of restriction about all the no-profit organization.
Okay, yeah.
So this, it was a turning point for us, absolutely. And so it was not possible to work, to support the Tibetan culture anymore with a no-profit. So we decided to create some social sustainable business. So in this way, we can support the same way, but producing income, paying taxes. So also for the local government, it would be a good deal in
and
some way.
And to keep them happy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So what they had the milk and the fiber. There was the two most interesting things. So we started in the two parallel activity, one developing a milk supply chain and one on the fiber. So yak fiber was already known in Italy, especially adult yak fiber, and at that moment it hadn't a very big good reputation because it was used mainly to make fake cashmere with bleaching it. Okay. But it was only the fiber of the adult yak. So we collected, because the Tibetan told us, but if you want the very good, you need the young yak, that is in Tibetan is named Yareku, that is after the first and the second winter of life.
Yeah.
So this undercoat fell down spontaneously on the grassland, is collected, and the characteristics are really, really interesting. So we finally had the first 20 kilo of down, and we have the chance to live close to Biella, that is the Italian textile district. So we bring this precious down, because for us it was really precious. And also the spinner, it was at first a little bit skeptic because, is yak is not so interesting, it's dark, it's not so soft.
Yeah.
After when I asked him, please spin it for us, because we really want there is a social impact. He did, and he was impressed about how warm and how soft it was, very close to cashmere. We did a lot of lab analysis, and it was around 17 micron. That is really, really a good fiber. So in this moment, we learned that the potential was really, really, really good to develop in something. So we started to make some scarf, some accessory, and slowly we came in the ant knitting world. That is really the world that is the ideal world for our fiber, because people that touch the yarn for a lot of hours every day, they care about what there is behind a yarn. So
yeah. Okay, that's a really great introduction of how you both came together. I want you to just share with the audience just very quickly, because you had some great experiences on the plateau as a vet, and you were exchanging some of your Western animal medicine with their Tibetan of homeopathic medicine in a way.
Yeah, because I'm a mountain man and I'm a vet. So for me, the Tibet was really a dream. So in order to help better in animal health the local herders, I spent when I just arrived on the plateau after meeting Paula, a few weeks with a traditional Tibetan vet. It was a very famous vet named Ake Lako. Ake is like a noble title, so it was a very important vet. We spent hours and hours talking between us to share our experience. And finally, we went on the field to share our experience on the field. After we was walking, he went in a tent. It was strange, there are no yak in a tent. And the first patient was an old Tibetan woman. And I told him, please, I'm a vet, I'm not a doctor. Please, you are a doctor, you visit this woman, and you tell me what you think about. So this was the start of the
event. He was testing you.
He was testing me. But I visited the woman and it was a very interesting exchange. So it's very important to know how people work in order to give a contribution, because if you don't know exactly how they work, it's too easy to tell you use penicillin, you use this medicine. So learning a little bit of their traditional medicine helped a lot to tell them when is really necessary to use, for example, an antibiotic that is almost never necessary in an animal that live free in a grassland. And their traditional medicines is much more interesting and there is this natural. They are not with our period for the milk and also for the hair, because also the fiber can absorb little quantity of chemical if they are used.
Yeah, and just both you and Paula did spend time getting to know the customs of these people, which is so important because you work so closely together. You know, it's a different time frame and different sort of ceremonies have to happen for different stages of things. So it's so important that you develop a personal relationship.
It's very important because I just give you a little example. When in the dairy factory, when we planned to go to collect the milk, it was an adventure to start the first milk collection. They had to ask to the llama if it was the right day. Everything was ready, but it was not the right day to make the collection. So what to do? We have to respect their culture. Okay, when is the right day? In 1 week. Okay, no problem. Let's do it in 1 week.
So you had to change your air flight.
Exactly. I had to change my air flight.
That's funny. Okay. So your original goal was to create a really short production chain. And this chain starts always with the nomads and their animals, which have been yak, camel, goat and sheep, and then you bring the fleeces back here to Italy to have them spun. So just fill in a few more details about this production chain, in particular the Italian spinning mills, which are very interesting.
Yeah. Biella is the Italian textile district because the water of Biella is one of the sweeter water in Europe. So it was very suitable to wash the wool. For this reason, this industry developed. Yeah. And there is a big network of hidden little family business, family mills, and each one specialized in only one step. And this is not easy to get in touch with them. So the spinner just spin, the twister just twist, the one that makes cane or make balls. There are two different little familiar mills. And what is interesting is this work is not done only by sophisticated machine, but the human know-how is more important than what the machine do. So this is what is very important. And this network that in the past year with the economic crisis has had a lot of problems to survive. So it's also very important to give a little contribution to support this network that is really precious.
And I think you also said that this knowledge has been in this area for a couple of 100 years. Is that right?
Yes, you can. Piacenza, that is the first mill we work with. This is a famous brand of cashmere. It works since 350 years. So they discovered that the wool became clean when it was washed with this water, so very long time ago. So it's a very ancient know-how, maybe unique in the world, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so since you started in 2011, other textile companies have also started sourcing yak fibres from nomadic herders. So has this made a big difference to the lifestyle of these communities? And are you still sourcing from the same group of nomads?
We are still sourcing from the same group of nomads, but I think that our particularity is that we've sourced the first lot family by family, tent by tent, this directly to them. Now that the quantity are increasing, I cannot go tent by tent to source the fiber because it's not feasible, but I did then the proposition to put all together in a cooperative. So in this way, I can deal directly with them without any middlemen, because it's important that the profit goes directly to the family. This is the unicity of our work. And what we do, we also try to transfer some competence to them in order to learn how to divide, how to sort the fiber, how to clean, how to produce, to improve the quality of the fiber and to have a better income. So I think, honestly, I don't know exactly, but as I know, there is nobody of the other big brand. They just buy the fiber on the market. That do this kind of work with very strict connection with the community and the family. And what we do, we try to make a monitoring of our social impact, because our aim is to not to change their life totally, but to give a measurable support to them. Yeah. And it's clear the fiber is once a year, but what is important, that is something that is reliable on the long term. Yeah. So it's 15 years that we buy the fiber from the same group of family, around 1,000 families. So it's quite a lot know that they can know that next year we will be there buying their fiber. So this
and they can keep investing and knowing they can stay in this lifestyle.
Exactly.
That's really great. Okay. And I think we should also remind people, because I didn't think of this, how big the plateau actually is. Because it's not just a little group of mountains, is it?
No, absolutely. Because when we think to Tibet, we think more about the Himalayan part of Tibet. Yeah. But Tibet is between the Himalaya and Mongolia is a very large area, bigger than Western Europe, than France, Italy, Germany, Spain together. So it's easy to take, 20 hours driving to go from one part to the other part of the plateau. So it's really large. And each area is totally different, because we will talk after about the fiber, but the goat are in different area compared to the yak, to the camel. So there is a big biodiversity, and some area are really not populated. It's really not the no man's land. There is just wild animal and nobody. So it's really, really still wide and genuine.
And you were also telling me that because of partly due to climate change, but also the government regulations and things, that some areas that were free for nomads have become fields, and there's a cross-breeding program happening, which isn't so good. Just say something about that.
In general, Tibetan in the past was real nomad, free to graze on very large areas. But as you can imagine, all over the world, nomads are not appreciated by the governments because they cannot be controlled, because you don't know where they are. Yeah. So the program was to build fences everywhere. So each family has a winter pasture, a spring pasture, maybe a summer pasture. But you know that this family, it can be in one place, on the other place, so easy to get to find. And one other interesting aspect is also related to the climate change, that in lower altitude, just to 3,200 meters, they started to cultivate crops. So the grassland now became a big field of barley, of colza, and so cultivated, I suppose, with chemicals, with fertilizers, and all the family that lived in this area has been resettled in the city. So they lost their land, they lost their culture, they lost a lot of things. And since there are crops, there is a straw, so there is also food for the animal. So they thought to crossbreed the yaks with cows in order to increase the milk production. In a blind way, I think, because this is a big risk of loss of biodiversity. And the crossbreed, as you can imagine, doesn't produce any fiber. Mm-hmm. It produces more milk, but the quality of milk is less good. So it's not good to survive at this area. So in the place where we collect mYak fiber, there is this program is started in just some spots, but in general, our yak are totally pure. But looking at the future, we are starting to collect this year the fiber from another area that is very high, at 4,300 meters of average altitude, so very far away from everything, where yaks graze with the wild animal, with the Tibetan antelopes, gazelle, wild donkey, wolf, snow
leopard.
Yeah, it was my dream to meet him, but I just meet the trace. But next time, I think he will wait for me.
That sounds heavenly. You must enjoy your job so much, and you're over in Tibet 3 or 4 times a year, aren't you?
Yes, in general, I spend 3 times a year at least, and 1 month each time, in spring, in summer, and in autumn. In full winter, just if it's really needed, because the conditions are really extreme, also the condition of the road. So it's more risky also because of the altitude. If you are not well, it's very complicated to go in a lower part. So in winter, it's just in extreme situation.
Okay, now a few years ago, mYak brought out a new yarn range called Tibetan Cloud, which is made from the fleeces of an ancient breed of Tibetan domestic sheep. So I want you to tell us about these sheep, because it's a really interesting story about how that came, and their habitat, and also how you process their fleeces.
So the story of our wool, the Tibetan Cloud, it started in a quite funny way. I remember very well, we was with Paula doing a picnic on a Tibetan plateau, because Tibetan loves to make picnic. Usually in the summer, because the summer is so short, so they usually bring their dry meat and whatever. They open they put the fabric on the grass, and they spend time playing. So we was there with Paula and some Tibetan friends, and there was grazing sheep everywhere. And Paula started to ask me, okay, but why we use also only the yak? Why we cannot do nothing with the sheep wool? Okay, please, these sheep are beautiful, I agree. They graze quietly in the grassland, but they have a carpet wool, because Tibetan traditional, they have a carpet tradition. So we would like to make yarn, so I don't think that is a wool interesting for us. But Paula keeping making this question also the year after. And the wool, please. But the wool, you cannot do nothing with the wool. So finally, because she insisted so much, what we can do? So looking at the wool with some Tibetan friends, I've seen that in the middle of the coarse hair, there was some really, not like cashmere, but really soft wool, like an undercoat. So what we did, we collect a first shearing of wool that it was manually sheared, like
that's the traditional way.
By hand, in the traditional way, because there is no electricity in the place, so there is not.
Of course,
there is no other option to shear the sheep. Maybe now with solar panel, but I don't think so. So we dehair this wool. So it means that we separate the coarse hair from the soft part of the wool. So we had a yield of 20%. It means that we purchased 1 ton of wool. We had 200 kilo of good quality wool. The 800 kilo of waste of byproduct we gave back to the community, because they used to make the mattress. In particular, there was the mattress of meditation for the monastery. So it's like a little circular economy. And this wool, when we bring it to Biella, we span, and we discovered that it's a very interesting wool, quite unique, because I think it's the only wool that is dehaired. So it has a very particular touch. The diameter is around 18, 19 micron, like a very good merino's wool, but with some particular characteristics.
That's totally true. Like, I've knitted a vest out of it, and it's so soft. It's incredibly soft, and it sort of doesn't quite feel like wool. It feels softer than wool.
Exactly.
Surprised.
Because the diameter, is what you see in a lab is not what you touch, because there are, I don't know, the structure of the fiber, maybe even if the diameter is the same, can be totally different. So we was very happy of the results. So finally Paula told me, I told you should do before, but we did it, and we started with our collection of pure wool. Is a sport light decay, so is a count is very suitable to make sweater, to make so many things, so very versatile. We can tell we have a 26 color, because it's easier to have a a quite big quantity of wool, and the wool is all white. It's not like the yak that is black and gray, so the give limitation of color. With the wool, Paula was very happy because each color that was in her mind, we could make it. So, yeah, exactly. I want a brilliant pink. Okay, here you are. So it was a paradise for her to have the Tibetan cloud, and now it's a must of the collection of mYak because it's very popular. And we thought that the wool could take some market to the yak, but are totally different markets. So we are really happy of our result. And now, last year we did a new collection of new color, 12 color, according to the 12 Tibetan sign of the zodiac. So it was a funny way to
cute,
to a funny way to have a new color, and also because Paula supports a lot of Tibetan artists. So we have quite a deep relation between mYak and the Tibetan artists. So we had a Tibetan artist who drove for each mouse an exclusive symbol of the sign exclusively for us. So it was a very interesting project that we did.
Yeah, that's great. And then since then you've developed another yarn based on this wool as well, haven't you?
Yes, this is we are very proud of it. This is our new yarn, and is the first blend that is done with the Tibetan wool. And we mixed 50% of wool after a lot of trial with Carlotta, our textile engineer, big member of our team, of our family. And we developed this blend with 50% of Tibetan wool, 35% of yak gray, and 15% of linen cultivated in Italy. So what we try to do is, even with the blend, to respect our principles, so of traceability, because the chain, we talked before of a short chain, maybe is not so short, but is traced in each part. This was what is really important. As short as it is better, but if cannot be really short, it's important that it's traced in each part. So we can control each step of the production, from the grazing animal to the yarn, and this we can ensure that we do personally, and we don't buy just giving a phone call.
Okay.
So these are is a true fingering, 2 plies, so 400 meters for 100 grams, and is just new from a few weeks. We will have a new color. So it's a little bit late for this summer because it's supposed to be a little bit a summer fiber, but for next summer we will have so many colors. But we are very proud of the result, and also of the particular touch of the knitting.
Yes, it's super,
this is the first design
soft.
that we have.
Okay, that's great. So we have talked about Tibetan yak and Tibetan sheep, but there's also Tibetan cashmere here and Tibetan camel. But the production of cashmere can be quite controversial. So what can you say about your yarn?
It is, because you can imagine that in the world totally there are 3 million of yak, and the number is decreasing. So it seems a lot, 3 million, but is in very remote area. The quantity of cashmere is huge. Cashmere is becoming a commodity for all over the world. So the impact of this animal on the environment can be very, very high. So, for example, a lot of cashmere comes from the inner Mongolia, and they had a big problem of desertification. It seems that there is a connection also between the sandstorm in Beijing and the desertification due to the impact of the cashmere goat. Because the goat is much smarter than the sheep, but is a selective grazer. What means that it likes leguminose and not graminacee. So it likes just one part of the sheep picks up only what she likes. But since the leguminose is the grass that fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere in the land, so it fertilizes the land. If you graze just this type of grass, you change the composition of the grassland, the other grass cannot survive, and the desertification arrives. So the goat impact a lot on the environment. So what we did, we tried to collect the cashmere only in in area where traditionally they breed goat, and they are rocky area, because where we work is not far from the spring of the Yellow River. So close to the river, there are rocky area where they just can pick up some grass between the rocks. So in this place, since millennials, they breed the goat, and they can produce the best cashmere in the world, because Tibetan cashmere is the only cashmere that is below 15 microns. So it's 14.5 microns of thickness. So it's very fine. Yeah. And also with the goat, there are crossbreeding program, because since the Tibetan goat are little, Chinese thought, okay, we crossbreed with bigger goat, we have more cashmere. Yes, this is sure. But the quality decreased a lot.
Okay.
So in this little area, little flock, we still can have
the top quality.
The top quality of cashmere. Okay. So our cashmere almost doesn't peel, because when we dehair, we just keep the long fiber. Mm-hmm. We don't put all together. So we prefer to have a lower yield, but to have a very
really
good,
top quality
exactly.
Cashmere.
So we care a lot about that. So we don't have a very big palette of color, because the quantity is not so high, but the quality we can guarantee that is really, really good.
They're beautiful colors.
And it's not really white, the natural color, because Tibetan goat are not all white, and we don't have enough quantity to divide the color. So we mix everything. So it's the Rauma, this is the natural color, the not dye.
It's sort of an oatmeal-y cream.
Exactly, because a big part are white, and maybe some black, some gray, some brown. And so we have this color that can change year by year, like all our color, because animals are not the same.
It's natural, and you're not bleaching.
We don't bleach, absolutely. For example, the yak has 3 natural color, and each year the oatmeal is the lighter, the desert is the middle, and this is the brown. So the brown is the more constant, but the gray and the white each year can change a lot. So it's important that our customers knows that each lot can be very different, but it's because it's natural. If you bleach, everything is exactly the same.
Yeah, okay.
But I usually tell that it's like the wine.
Yes.
A good wine is never the same. You cannot go, I want the same wine that last year. No, because the climate is different, the place is different.
The sun is different, the soil's slightly different, the rain's different.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, say something very quickly about the camel, and then we want to hear about these.
About in my long trip on the Tibetan Plateau, now you know that the trip are really long, so hours driving. When I arrive close to the Mongolian border, there are Tibetan communities that have a mixed culture between Mongolian and Tibetan. Mm-hmm. So they speak Tibetan, but they live in the Mongolian yurta, that is the traditional Mongolian tent. So they have mixed culture, and they breed camel. So camel is a very, very interesting fiber. And camel is like the yak for the other Tibetan, because it produce a lot of milk. Because camel is the animal of the future in my opinion, because it can valorize a lot of very poor food. Okay. It can grass in the nothing and produce 10 liters of milk and also a good fiber. Okay. So this is really, really interesting.
And extremes in temperature also, very hot, very cold.
Exactly, because it's close to the Gobi Desert. So during the day it's very hot, in the night very cold. So it's really a very interesting animals. The yarn, we have 2 natural color, because we divide the light and the darker camel, and the fiber can be closer to the alpaca compared. Is in between the alpaca and the cashmere, but the alpaca are sheared, but camel are combed like the cashmere goat, and we dehair. So we do exactly the same procedure we do with the cashmere, with the yak, and with the Tibetan cloud. Okay. So it's a very interesting fiber, and the one that is very rare is the light color, because also this is natural.
This is also a beautiful color, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's different. I think that all the natural color are usually very beautiful, because the nature does is usually the best.
Yeah. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. Okay. So that's really, really interesting. And here you've got yak with cotton and yak with silk. So tell us quickly.
In order to have some spring and summer yarn, a few years ago we decided to make some blend with our baby yak. We started with the yak silk. So is a light fingering, 3 plies with brilliant color, because there is the softness of the yak and the brilliance of the silk together. So now it becomes a very popular yarn.
It's gorgeous.
And also we have the kupa, that is the yak cotton, is organic cotton. And also is also very interesting, but one interesting aspect is that since the cotton is vegetable fiber and the yak is animal fiber, it takes the color in a different way.
Yeah.
So the color can have this unique...
heathery look.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So mYak has actually embarked on a new adventure where they're applying the same mYak principles and values, but in a 100% Italian context, because they're using an ancient breed of Italian sheep. So, and this yarn range is called, if I can pronounce it properly, Fibra Gentili.
Perfect.
Good. Which means gentle fibres, which is such a good name.
Yeah,
it's a lovely name for a yarn range.
It is.
So, and again, there's a really cool story behind this yarn range. So I want you to tell it, how it came about. And I also noticed that I keep saying ancient breed. So ancient breed of Tibetan sheep, ancient breed of Italian sheep. So in your answer, can you also just talk, because ancient is not just interesting historically, but because of the biodiversity.
It's a protection of unique biodiversity that once is lost, definitely lost.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a story about these sheep and their shepherds down in southern Italy.
So this story started in 2019 in a yarn festival in Dublin, in wool linen. Our booth was close to Treli's booth. I always socialize with my neighbor of booth.
And she's a Greek hand dyer, Lisa.
Yeah. And so we share the same principle, because she loves animals, she loves environmental protection. So she was asking me, she discovered that I'm a vet, so there was so many questions, as you can imagine. She would like to source some Greek or Italian wool in order not to usually dye with the superwash, this industrial fiber. And what I told her is that what I know is that this fiber, Italian fiber, is not interesting, is not fine, is even not long, so even not good for carpet. So it was really not interesting at all. So she was a little bit
disappointed.
Not disappointed, but what a pity. After I was thinking about that, and I remember my zootechnical study when I was in the university, and I had a question in an exams about the breed of Italian sheep. And I remember this Gentile di Lucania. And in the list of this property, there was this fine wool. What happened? So I tried to study, to get in touch with what there is with this related to this breed. We have a good network of vets, so I called some colleague from South Italy. Do you know there are some of these sheep, some association of breeder, and I discovered there are at least 3 flocks with the pure Gentile di Lucania. So I took a train very fast.
This is such an exciting story.
I went in South Italy, and I discovered a word, because each time you open a window, you discover new words and a lot of things that I didn't know. So this is a little sheep with triple attitude. It produces milk, a gorgeous milk. They make canestrato di moliterno, that is incredible cheese, the meat and the wool. And they are bred in traditional way. And what is interesting to tell that now sometimes people think that all breeding has a negative impact on the environment. In this case, it's exactly the opposite, because these sheep, they graze under the forest, they clean the forest. In this way, they prevent the fire, the brush fire. So, and also there is a culture of pastoralism that is very, very important to maintain. And the story is very ancient, because this sheep was bred by the ancient Greek 600 years before Christ. And Basilicata was a Greek colony. So there is a strict connection between Greece and...
So Lisa is thrilled.
Lisa, she was so happy about what they discovered.
Yeah. Okay, and so keep telling us about the history bit. That's interesting.
And so the Romans bred these sheep. So the dress of the emperor was done with this wool. So it was very and also in the Roman sculpture, when there is represented a sheep, it belonged to this breed. So it has a very interesting story. After South Italy and the Spanish domination with the Borboni family, also they appreciate this wool and they bring some sheep to Spain. And from Spain, they improved the selection and is the real merinos that was spread all over the world. So it seems that this sheep is really the ancestral of all the merinos.
Grandmother of the merino.
Yeah, yes. Spanish are not all.
They don't
agree
that.
too much. I remember in Madrid they didn't tell this story, but it seems that they did some research that this is the real story. After what happened, there is also a problem, not a problem, but an economical impact. I discovered that this wool was paid 20 cents per kilo. So a sheep can produce not more than 3 kilos, so it's 60 cents. And to shear a sheep costs €2. So it's a totally losing money business. So there was not any consideration for this wool. It's really a pity because it's a very soft and interesting wool. So we went last year with Liz to assist to the shearing. We collected the first lot of wool. The quality was great, but the yield was very small because it was not so clean. Yeah. So we purchased 2 tons. We had 200 kilos, so 10% of yield.
Okay.
But the quality was good. So I think that when you make an experimentation activity, it's normal to have some loss.
The first time.
Exactly.
And then you're going there just in 1 week's time for the next shearing.
Yeah, I will go there to spend all the days with the shearer and with the farmer in order to have a better quality.
Yeah, and also probably to encourage them to look after the fleece, to think of the fleece as being another economic...
Exactly. So now they already know because they organized a big conference with the university. So we are going to have a speech in this conference one day, and the day after to assist to work with the shearer in order to have a better fleece and because they have to understand that, okay, there is the possibility to increase a lot the price, but they have to work a lot to increase the quality. And we are thinking about to have a price connected to the quality. So if the yield is high, the owner of this flock can have a higher price compared to the one that they produce at lower quality.
Okay. So that's motivation, which you need.
Is important. It's very important.
You must love your job. You travel all around the world on these new adventures all the time, all connected with animals.
But sometimes they don't look for an adventure. An adventure arrives. Comes to me alone.
That's 2 yarns you've said no to.
Exactly.
But have been super successful. Now just talk a little bit more about your collaboration with Lisa. Since she got you to find these yarns, you're collaborating with her with the hand dyeing to create very beautiful, vibrant Mediterranean colours.
Yeah, what Liz tells that in general, when you dye a virgin wool, it's not easy to have brilliant color. She told that the Gentile is incredibly brilliant once dye also ends dye. So it's a very interesting characteristic of this wool. So we launched the collection Vogue Knitting in 2024, and we did a collection inspired to the 5 elements: water, fire, air, and ether, and earth.
And earth.
So there was composed by some solid color dye in Biella by mYak, some hand dye color by Trelise in Athens. And the knitter appreciated it a lot. I think it's an interesting wool, 22 microns of diameter, soft because since it is just a virgin wool. Is very soft and very interesting. So now we are thinking about a new type of yarn, new blend, because now we have just one collection. The next collection will be named Mediterraneo because it will be inspired to the color of the Mediterranean Sea, the Mare Nostrum. So this is and we'll be ready before the summer.
Yeah, that's great. I can see there's so much passion in what you and Paola are doing. It's really, really great. And so many really fantastic stories behind each yarn range. It's fantastic to listen to. So just to end off with, what I want to say is that both your and Paola's business ethos really does come from an authentic desire to uplift and preserve ancient communities in their unique way of life. And both you and Paola really genuinely share this commitment. And so to end the interview, I'd like you to talk about two other projects that mYak has been involved in. And if I can pronounce them correctly, it's the Dokapo and the Kangri Metok. Is that right? Cool.
Yes, for me and Paola, the social aspect is a really key aspect of what we do. Is the base of everything. So without the social aspect, I don't find interest to do this kind of things. So, and yes, there are other projects. Unfortunately, I don't have all the time that I would like to have. But one very interesting project. We had a dream since long time to build a full chain on the plateau. So it means from the breeding of the sheep to the final product, in order to give a full-time work to a group of persons.
And to be independent.
And to be totally independent, exactly. So the idea was to end in one of my trips on the plateau, I saw a group of nomads, women, weaving in a very uncomfortable way with a very rudimental loom. So it was a very hard work. And I thought that there could be a way to help them to work in better condition and produce better product. So what we did a GoFundMe, and it worked very well. So we could buy better loom in Lhasa, usually Tibetan, but so we purchased the first group of 5 looms. We found a local trainer, a man from Lhasa that has an incredible know-how, a mine of know-how. And this group of women, first we started in a farmer village. Okay, now we have the workshop in the same place where we are collecting the mYak fiber, very high place, close to the snow leopard.
That's why, right? That's
exactly.
That's motivation.
That's why. And this group of women, they are working and they are managing all the cycles. So they shear the sheep, they wash the wool, they spin the wool, and they weave, producing very interesting product. So now we help them to sell this product, and all the profit of this product go to the cooperative of women. Dokarpo, it means the white mountain, so it was a wish of luck for them. They decided the name.
Okay.
Is also important because it's their project.
Yes,
it's not our project. It should be their project, and we help them to create their project. So this is very simple tea mats. They produce table runners. Now what they're producing now is better quality, scarf. And they are slowly finding a market locally and also in the Chinese cities. So it's a success, I think we can tell, because they self-sustain. And there are around 28 women, 10 spinners and 18 weavers. With the profit, they purchase more looms. So it's a good example.
Growing,
it's growing and it's working well. Also, the local authorities, when they want to make a present, they purchase one Dokarpo product. So it's a little story. It's a pilot. Our aim was to create a pilot to demonstrate that it's possible to create a full chain on the plateau and to give a full-time job to a group of women. So this is very. So we're very happy.
That's great. And then you've got a similar story with yogurt, yak yogurt.
This is a big story, so it's a big effort to tell it in a short time, because as I told before, the milk is one of the most important products of yak. So we decided to build a dairy factory in order to produce yogurt, milk, and butter. But it's a complicated project because the fiber can stay months without be damaged, but the milk is something that should be processed very fast. So at first I had some fight with the local government because they wanted to force me to build the mill close to the city. But close to the city, they burned the trash, they produced dioxin. I couldn't imagine the factory in this place. So we found a valley, stunning place, incredible. and I thought, okay, I would like to make there the factory. And everybody, no, forget it. It's too cold, too far away. After I was a little bit disappointed, we asked to the Lama. The Lama did a ritual, and they told that the mo means the energy was good. So okay, we can build the factory there. So, and finally, the factory is built. by an Italian architect in bioarchitecture. So we are collecting the milk every day from a big group of family. We have 15 people of local staff that has been trained by the Italian cheesemaker, the same that came with me in 2004. And it's a complicated adventure because the costs are very high. But and it has not still reached the sustainability. So we are still working. The yogurt is excellent. So the quality, we are very satisfied of the yogurt. We will produce yogurt, packet milk and butter. But the butter we will sell locally at popular price because all the family that has been resettled, so they have lost all their herd, the animals, they don't have butter anymore. And for Tibetan culture, butter is very important. So the butter stay locally, and we sell the skimmed yogurt that is better because it's not too fat in the big Chinese city. So this is a very big project where I put all my energy in the last 15 years, and it's not finished. Sometimes I'm tired because I tell me one day it will be totally sustainable. I think we are very close to reach the sustainability, but it's not done. So end of July, I will be there, spending with the team all the months of August to try to work hard and to reach the sustainability of our dairy project.
And you said also that you're going to try some yak ice cream.
Yeah. I will go on the plateau with my ice cream equipment, with everything needed to make ice cream. We will make a little house in front of our factory, so we will make fresh ice cream for all the people that are there for the herd. Because in front of the factory there are always the big herd of yak that are going on the mountain or going back. So we will start to make some trial, and I think in the future the yak ice cream could become something very popular. So I am very, very excited about that.
I am so jealous. I would just love to go on all these adventures. You've got to take some good photos. Andrea loves to be in these places, but he doesn't like to take the photos. You have to take some photos of you with your ice cream.
Absolutely, I will do. I will do. Absolutely, I will do. And I invite always friends to visit my factory. It's not easy because it's in a remote area, but we have room for guests, so you are welcome if you want to come.
Yeah, it sounds heavenly. Okay, well, look, it has been such a delight to have you on Fruity Knitting again and to hear all these extra stories behind the yarn. It's been a real privilege, so thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. You know, the vet has always a lot of nice stories to tell. I have a lot of more, so for next time...
Okay. Okay, that's
Thank
great.
you to you. It was a great pleasure.
Good. Let's say goodbye to the audience.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.